Our topic for today is all about the rules of genes in heredity. So what is heredity? Heredity is the passing trait on of traits from parents to their children, either through sexual reproduction or asexual reproduction. So the heredity informed is contained or within the genes located in the chromosomes of each cells. An inherited trait can be determined by one or by many genes, and a single gene can influence more than one trait. So a human cell contains many thousands of different genes in the nucleus. So heredity factors known as genes are thought to exist as discrete portion known as loci of chromosomes. So the term discrete refers to the concept that genes are always located at the same point or locus on a chromosomes. So it is believed that pairs of homologous chromosomes contains linear matching arrangements of genes exerting parallel controls over the same traits. So pairs of genes that exercise such parallel controls over the same traits are known as alleles, which are two kinds, dominant and recessive. But before that, we will discuss about alleles. So what are alleles? For every gene, you can have two of the same allele. An allele is a variant form of given gene. Sometimes, different alleles can result in a different observable phenotypic traits, such as different pigmentation. Phenotypic traits such as specific hair color and eye color. So, when genes mutate, they can take on multiple forms, with each form differing slightly on the sequence of their base DNA. So, the dominant genes will be discussed by Dollymie Buno.
Dominant gene, the gene which decides the appearance of an organism, even in the presence of an alternative gene, is known as dominant gene. Dominance is a relationship between two alleles of a gene and their associated phenotypes. The dominant refers to a relationship between two versions of a gene. If one is dominant, the other one must be not dominant. In that case, we call it recessive. A dominant gene or a dominant version of a gene is a particular variant of a gene, which for a variety of reasons expresses itself more strongly all by itself than any other version of a gene which the person is carrying, and in the case the recessive. Now, it is usually refers to inheritance patterns frequently used in conjunction with the Punnett square, where if an individual has two versions of a gene and one is observed to frequently be transferred from one generation to another, then it is called dominant. So there are dominant gene traits such as dimples. So dimples are indentations on the cheeks tend to occur in families, and this trait is assumed to be inherited. So dimples mo ni siya ang kandiis. So kinsa may mga nay kandiis diri. Kan depende po sa liwat mo maka-dimples. Next guy, freckles are small brown spots in your skin, often in areas that get sun exposure. In most cases, freckles are harmless. Ano siya mga sa ginatawag pa ng mga tumtum sa face. Color brown. Next, a cleft chin refers to a chin with a Y-shaped dimple in the middle. It's usually a genetic trait. So, mao ni siya ang kanang line sa atong suwang. Next, a widow's peak is a distinctive V-shaped hairline that tends to run in families. Mao ni siya ang kanang V-shape sa kanang sa forehead dapit kanang murag mo heart na ang shape sa face. The next slide.
Wait.
Recessive genes. A recessive gene is a gene whose effects are masked in the presence of a dominant gene. Every organism that has DNA packed into chromosomes has two alleles or forms of a gene. For each gene, one inherited from their mother and one inherited from their father. If one is dominant, the other one must be not the actions of several separate genes to be expressed in the above organism. Examples: human height. Human height is a distance from the bottom of the feet to the top of the head in a human body standing erect. Sa naal din mga height di kanang tag-as sa kaliwat, napoy kaliwat na mamukbo. Depende na sa bukas sa naliwat. Next guy, human color. Human skin color ranges from the darkest brown to the lightest hues. Differences in skin color among individuals is caused by variation in pigmentation, which is the result of genetics inherited from one's biological parents, the exposure to the sun, or both. O ang skin color di ay kay na mga puti, napoy brown, depende na sa imong skin type. Napoy upan na puti, nga kanang kung mainiptan kay mo itlog o mo brown. Depende ko na sa liwat, asa ka na liwat na yung skin color. Next guy, albinism. It is a lack of skin pigment in humans. Albinism is a congenital condition characterizing humans with a partial or complete absence of pigment in the skin, hair, and eyes. Albinism is associated with a number of vision defects such as photophobia, nystagmus, and amblyopia. Lack of skin pigmentation makes for more susceptibility to sunburn and skin cancers. Monis lang mga albino, kanang kung kabantay mo na yung mga uwak na color white, kanang mura sila kanang white, kaya sila tanan ba, na po yung mga bat ng color white, sa black sila. Hindi ko na sila pwede nga mainitan ng white. Next, common genetic disorder. There are common genetic disorders such as Down syndrome. It is a condition in which a person has an extra chromosome. Chromosomes are small packages of genes in the body. So Down syndrome is a condition in which a child is born with an extra copy of their 21st chromosome, hence its other name trisomy 21. This causes physical and mental developmental delays and disabilities. The trisomy 21 means there's an extra copy of chromosome 21 in every cell. This is the most common form of Down syndrome. Down syndrome is caused by Next.
Okay, so next is
Sickle cell disease. Sickle cell anemia is one of a group of inherited disorders known as sickle cell disease. It affects the shape of red blood cells, which carry oxygen to all parts of body. These sickle cells become rigid and sticky, which can slow or block blood flow. Causes: change in the gene that tells the body to make the iron-rich compound in red blood cells called hemoglobin. For a child to be affected, both mother and father must carry one copy of sickle cell gene, also known as sickle cell trait, and pass both copies of the altered form to the child.
so next.
Phenylketonuria, also called PKU, is a rare inherited disorder that causes an amino acid called phenylalanine to build up in the body. PKU is caused by a defect in the gene that helps create the enzyme needed to break down phenylalanine. Causes: lack of or deficiency of enzyme that needed to process phenylalanine. Eating protein-rich foods such as milk, cheese, nuts, or meat, and even grains such as bread and pasta, or eats an artificial sweetener. This buildup of phenylalanine results in damage to nerve cells in the brain.
So next is
Hemophilia is usually an inherited bleeding disorder in which the blood does not clot properly. This can lead to spontaneous bleeding as well as bleeding following injuries or surgery. Blood contains many proteins called clotting factors that can help to stop bleeding. Causes: hemophilia is caused by a mutation or change in one of the genes that provides instructions for making the clotting factor proteins needed to form a blood clot. This change or mutation can prevent the clotting protein from working properly or to be missing altogether.
Each of our gene codes contains unique protein, and each protein has a separate and distinct function to perform in the cell.
The effect of genes in our environment. Genes are inherited, but their expression can be modified by interactions with the environment. Genetic traits are determined largely through the precise information found in the cell's gene structure. So a variety of factors in the environment can actually alter the effects of a particular